It's expensive to live here. Hey, welcome to The Real and Raw. I'm Lynn Serrano.
I'm Brian Expensive Kelm.
Yeah, he is expensive, but he's worth it.
Oh,
Yeah, he's
that's
worth it.
another story.
Yeah, we'll be right back after this. Welcome back. Hi, Brian.
Hello. Kind of a weird beginning to the show. Like everybody's like, "Hey, we need the context of the front of that conversation."
No, you never know why it's there or what we say, but makes you wonder. So, you thought
Awkward
of this
silence.
idea? Yeah. What's that?
Awkward silence.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I wore
Whoa.
makeup today, not
No, that's not red makeup.
oh gosh, it's
That's
getting
Lynn natural.
worse.
Her natural face getting red.
My hand doesn't even help. Damn it.
No.
This is why I usually wear red. I should have worn red today.
Yeah, when it's black, we got a bigger contrast.
I gotta keep note of that. Anywho, fulfillment. I guess I was on the wrong track there with the fulfillment center.
You can take fulfillment any which way you want.
Anyways, Brian, I'll let you start.
Yeah, so the context for this was I had somebody in my industry. I don't know him very well, but he's in the industry, and I like to post stuff that I need to practice every day, but also there'll be a contribution to other people. And it comes from anywhere I can find it, right? From searching to reading to whatever. And I'm always kind of a in the moment type person. As sometimes things are scripted and planned of what we're going to talk about, and others are not, but we leave it out there to discover, right? It's not like we have to touch on all these 10 things and then we run out of time. And so I posted something from Darren Hardy. It was just a quote, and this gentleman, who remained nameless, doesn't matter, he's a good dude, but he does definitely have a way of challenging people, right? And not in a bad way, just in a way of integrity and whatnot, and I respect him for that. And he goes, have these memes, something to the degree of, and I'm paraphrasing, but it was the gist of it, have these memes made you $1 million? And I said, that's not the point.
Right.
That was my answer. He responds back and he goes, well, can you answer the question? I said, I already did. And eventually he dropped it or whatever, but I'm like, your answer is in what I said.
Well, so in his mind, he probably thought you were deflecting answering his question.
Yeah.
But that's his interpretation.
Correct. And that's where I came up with the idea, and I shared it with Lynn, and I'm like, fulfillment. Now, I don't know what his angle was. Doesn't really matter, right? But like, fulfillment to me is not money. Fulfillment is making a difference. Fulfillment to me is going to bed every night knowing that I helped somebody I might not have been able to help before.
Right.
And it's the intangible, it's not the tangible. Obviously everybody's different. Just like when somebody defines success, there's a lot of parallels here. Fulfillment is up to each individual person, and the rationale is their own, right? Like success. Financial success often comes to mind. When you say success, I want to have this amount of money or properties or whatever. Well, how about waking up every day and knowing that you're just grateful to be alive? That might be success to another person.
Right.
Or know that they have a healthy meal, right? And so I think that there's a lot of parallels here with other topics and qualities of life, and fulfillment is one of those. And fulfillment to me is knowing that I'm passionate about what I do. I get to help people. And if somebody gets to see my heart, that's one of the most fulfilling things in the world, is that they get to see my heart, they get to see my intention. And I might come across as a little bit intense, and maybe a little arrogant to some people. That's not my intention. They probably don't know me very well if that's how it's coming across.
Right.
But I will not be denied of something I'm passionate about, regardless of popularity for you, So that's the whole gist of the topic today. And I just said, I'm like, hey, why don't we talk about that today?
And I love that you bring that up, because on Tuesday night we were talking about mindfulness and how that's that's really been stretched out to mean all sorts of different
Right.
stuff, and it's been like coin a phrase.
Hmm.
And fulfillment. I mean, gee, like what, like Amazon is a fulfillment center for everything. Like
Right.
that, it's how you take it and how what you make it to be.
Hmm.
And we've got the typical fulfillment of relationships and work and all these different things, and then you got fulfillment of your heart, your joy, and all those other things. And so again, it's one of those things. Well, it's just like if we make a meal and the way it tastes, it's going to taste different to me than it does to you, and how your palate is to mine. I mean, you just never know what how things are going to be perceived. Some people have the spicy, some people have the bland, some people have they need to taste like two or three different flavors at once, to make
Hmm.
it pop. I mean, like a chef's level. I mean, it just really it's coming to the mind, or meeting in the minds, and realizing, that there is more ways than how you think,
Hmm.
what and how you think of things.
Well, like when we look at a dining experience, right?
Mhm.
And obviously we're getting into more CEX or customer experience, right? But it's still the same premise of like, okay, they want to have a great experience, but what is that trigger? What are their buying motives that creates that experience?
Right.
Is it the cleanliness of the facility? Is it how you're treated? Is it the music in the background? It could have nothing to do with the food.
Right.
Absolutely nothing to do with the food. That's kind of a topper. That's
And the
kind of an
company you're
assumed thing.
and
What's
the
that?
company you're keeping, you know,
100%.
can
Yeah.
change the whole mood of the whole thing as well.
Yep. And
Yeah.
so to each person, it's individual. But until you find that out, you have no way of if you can deliver upon that or promise upon that, and then obviously through the results and everything that the restaurant in this case is known for. You know, I mean, like Scott McCain always says, there's only two P's: promise and performance. If the performance doesn't match the promise, you got a problem.
Yeah.
If the promise doesn't match the performance, another problem. And
And
unfortunately, the only way that matters is if you get them both right.
right. And the thing is it just and can we add another P on there?
Sure.
Preference.
Right.
Your preferences.
Yep.
If you don't look for, warm and cozy, and you're looking to be out and rowdy, you might need to be in a club instead of a pub. I
That's
mean,
right.
like
Yep.
it just, and your perspective, what are the things that you're hoping, if you're wanting to really talk to somebody, I don't think a crowd bar is a good place to go.
Correct.
But like where the service is real slow, like such as like a Denny's or something, you might be able to talk a long ass time, and you don't give a shit if the food tastes
Yeah.
good or when it comes out. I mean,
They just continue to bring you a carafe of coffee, and here it's like 4 hours later.
yeah, but again, it's like people don't take all those things in consideration, and then they go ahead and write a review.
Yeah.
And yet nobody can say that it had nothing to do with the establishment. It had to do with how you set up everything,
Hmm.
and it's why it's so important to what are you expecting to, get out of the whole thing,
Well,
if
and I'm glad you brought that up because here's the thing: it's very easy. It's very easy, in you great segue is because it's very easy for somebody to say what something was or what something wasn't.
right,
You go a little deeper, is that in every life experience, like let's say it's a restaurant or movie, dating, whatever it might be, putting out into the universe, and I know that might be a little woo, but if you're actually willing to do the homework up front about what I want this date to be, what I want this movie night to be, right? And you just write it down or you tell yourself, it's going to be a black and white thing, either if it was fulfilled or not. That's
right,
it.
right,
But it's very easy when now, obviously, in a service provider setting, like in business, is that if they don't ask up front, what is the desired outcome you want out of if we were to work together?
right,
Now, they only can answer at the moment in time that they might want to work with you, so they might not know all the inner workings, but they should know enough eventually to make a decision
right,
and live into what that outcome is. But if you don't ask them that, it's not like you can go back and say later, well, I gave you everything that you declared because you didn't know what they wanted out of it anyway. And
Right.
that's also another thing too, that reviews, and this is not the show about it, but it's if you don't ask up front, it's very easy for somebody to say that on the back end. But if you know up front and you fulfilled upon that to the best of your abilities, a little hard for somebody to come across and say, well, they didn't do that.
Right.
When I asked them purposely what that was on front, here was the desired outcome that they wanted out of this.
Yeah. And
A
so
little bit
that,
different.
yeah, exactly. And that's what I love is it really everything in this world is better perspective and how are you doing today? That's why I always like asking my doctor how he's doing.
Mhm.
Because if he's shitty mood, then that's he's gonna give me shitty lecture, whatever. I mean, you just really have to take so many different things in perspective or to look at to make it be what you want it to be. You can't go in there with a shitty attitude. You can't
Right.
go in there with the downer effect. You got to be you gotta expect the best, be
Mhm.
prepared for the worst. But again, I think fulfilling things that are simple in life, I mean, every day, did I make my bed? Did I do this? I mean, like have things you can check off and say, I successfully fulfilled something today that I wanted to
Correct.
get done.
Yep.
Don't set yourself up for failure. I mean, don't do it.
Well, and also though, like let's go to the root of fulfillment. Granted, we can look it up in in the dictionary, but fulfillment as a definition is entirely our own, right? When I say fulfilled, there's a peace and a grace about it that I don't want to be anywhere else. That's what it is to me. Fulfillment, I did all I could. It was a great experience. I didn't leave anything else on the table.
Right.
That not only what I put out in the universe that I wanted it to be, but then also what was delivered.
Yeah. Well, it's
And so you take that definition, and obviously it can change, right? Because tomorrow it might be different than today, but based on our experiences of life, but then you apply that to every single situation in life. What I'm saying in short is that declare your fulfillment of whatever that is before you do anything, because then it's pretty simple, either it was fulfilled or not. You do the homework up front, it's a little bit harder not to have the homework complete by the end.
right.
It's kind of like going on vacation, right? And I don't recommend this because I've seen it work horribly, but where you fill your vacation so filled with so many things, it's going to seem more like work than it is vacation. But
Well,
there again, if that's fulfillment to you in vacation, great. But that is not fulfillment to me on vacation.
yeah. Well, like I plan to take this like 6 week little tour again. And I know I'm gonna see it to the last end of it. But all that matters to me is I get to see you, I get to hug you,
Mhm.
we have a good meal, and whatever happens from there happens from there. But
Right.
what I love is just getting that real touch, that real just hang out. And so again, it's one of those things where, you know, sometimes we have too much expectations on situations and then you didn't leave anything for the element of surprise or the element of just enjoying and just being.
Right.
So so many people do prepare for a lot of things, and then when the time comes, they're not nothing prepared them for what it actually became.
Well, and I think too, and I'm not, obviously I was never trained as a professional actor or whatever, but obviously because of our backgrounds in theater and the theater world and being on stage, is that there comes a moment in time throughout your preparation where you know it so well, but then there's that margin where you just need to stop because you have to be in the moment. You have to be aware. You have all your lines and everything memorized in the tonality in which the scenes are going to take place, but then you also have, if you're just saying the lines but you don't have the context or the timing is off, and that's where you're being in the moment. And
Yeah.
so it's like fulfilling. Like, how many times would somebody sit there to be like, okay, I declared what I wanted out of this dining experience, like they run it through in their mind and they're like, wow, yeah, this was exactly as I wanted it to be,
Yeah.
instead of always having that scapegoat, right? Oh, this wasn't fulfilling. Well, did you declare what it was? No. Well, then of course, if nobody knows what that is, it's very easy to blame. It's very easy to external forces created that.
Well, I think it's funny you say that because, like, in a play or something, if somebody really messes up their lines and they go ahead and you don't know this stuff and you don't whatever go, what if that did happen? But right now, this is what's going on. I mean, you could play really well knowing and getting back on track, except that I couldn't have said my lines because I didn't hear the lines you were supposed to say before me. So I kind of love that, because that right there you can tell somebody if is a character or not in the character, you
Well, and
know?
they're living their interpretation of what that character is within the realm of being an actor and being in that role and embodying that role.
Right.
They never got out of character despite them, forgetting their lines or whatever, but they rolled with it.
Yeah.
And obviously that also brings in the fourth wall, where it's like, okay, to the viewer, you didn't break the fourth wall barrier, but you allowed people to just be with what that was,
Right.
regardless of not if it was planned or if you anticipated. I mean, obviously somebody forgetting their lines is not something that people, want to do, obviously,
Yeah.
but it happens. But
Yep.
but also, though, there again, in that context, fulfillment is about the whole experience. More likely to most people, like if they're going to watch a play, it might be one part of a play, but it's all the setup. How long
Right.
have they been dreaming to see it? It might be in an exotic theater, or maybe like a one night only type of show in some iconic place, So fulfillment. Why are people there?
Yep.
How long did they wait to get here? Is there any special reason why they came with 6 other people? Is somebody terminally ill and they said before they passed on that they wanted to go see this? There
Yeah.
are we have no idea how much fulfillment can be in a room unless we ask.
Right. And that, I think a lot of people don't go around feeling or looking for that. I think that's a big hole in a lot of people's life, is not
Mhm.
realizing to fulfill something for the
Mhm.
day and
Right.
taking it from that moment. Giving something in. What did you give and what did you get out of things? And
Correct.
I think, are you or not is a great question to ask here, because are you fulfilling, you know, your bucket full of happiness? Are you fulfilling somebody else's by being kind? I mean, there's just so much you can say about this topic.
Well, and I think too, another way of framing of, instead of saying declaring, how about doing the homework on,
Yeah.
where you're doing the exercises. We're not talking rocket science here. We're talking about, what do I want it to look like? What do I want it to feel like? What would be the most fulfilling experience by doing this thing?
Right.
And you write it down. Are you going to
Yeah.
hurt anybody? No, but then after it's done, you actually put some skin in the game. Kind of like, instead of dollars, you put your mental dollars into it.
Right.
And then you're leaning into a reality of something that you can't wait to do. Versus like somebody says, I'm going to take a class. Great. Have you put down a retainer of that class? No. Well, then you're not going to really live into it very much.
Yeah, and what are you expecting to get out of it? What
Yep.
is this, filling a need to learn a tool, have a tool in your toolbox, or is this just saying, fear FOMO, but you're not going to use it at all. You just want to know it. I mean,
Correct.
we don't ask ourselves enough questions, is really a human problem.
And
We
I
just
remember, oh, go ahead. Sorry, I interrupted
No,
you.
go ahead. Go ahead.
I remember years ago when there's a guy that's no longer in my industry. He retired and moved out to Arizona, but he never did any of this training from. I've done 10 workshops, 10 2-day workshops, very intense, in front of video, the whole 9 yards, and it helped change my life. Well, we got into a little bit of an argument over it. Obviously, I'm biased because at that time I might have did 7 or 8 workshops, right, in Vegas or wherever around the country, and this guy never did any. And he mentioned about, yeah, I've known people that have done them and they got some things, and then other people that haven't and didn't get anything. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, please help me understand. Somebody that's going to sign up for a workshop, spend thousands of dollars, okay, lodging, food, time away
Travel.
from family, in addition to the cost of the actual workshop, and they're just going to sit there with their arms crossed or whatever that looks like and just disregard everything that's been said. That
Yeah.
makes absolutely no sense to me.
Well, there's a lot of people doing that with their whole entire life.
Wow.
It
Wow.
yeah, it's, like they say, they don't wake up. They don't, and then yet they're living vicariously through other people, and through other lenses. but yet don't realize they have their own lens to feel and know what that experience is.
Right.
And they think because they go to a seminar or something, they think, shit, I'm going to have this. Well, no, you have to still, take action from what you learn. And again, you're not fulfilling nothing for attending and not implementing. It's just like
Correct.
you again, like I said, a bunch of people are living in a place they're not fulfilling something that they're just think because they're present. And I think, I think it can be said that we can argue the fact that, half the battle is showing up. I don't agree with that all the time, because half the battle is opening your mind to show up.
Mhm.
It's just not in body, but it's a mind and spirit type of thing.
That's why one of the, and I just had this conversation this morning with somebody. I said beginner's mind, right? Go into everything, like regardless if I like the person that's doing the presentation or their content or whatever, what can I get out of this in exchange for my time?
Right.
So you disregard and filter that there's any judgments on the person or who they're about or what their tendencies are, right? You remove all of that, what other people say that they are. If
Mhm.
I'm going to invest my time in this, I'm looking for the one idea that can make a difference.
Right.
What is that one idea? And I firmly believe that there is, within whatever you consume, there's one idea, if your mind is open to it, that you can find.
That's right. And that's Rex says that all the time. A lot of people just don't, they think they know everything and they go, "Oh, I know, I know." Well, you just missed that you could have had a shortcut that could have saved you hours and time and all this. But because you know everything, heaven forbid. And I mean, I like it when I know about a topic and I still go watch. And
Mhm.
I just because I'm like, maybe there's one granular thing that I didn't know that's going to make the whole being here and hearing other people's perspective fulfill what I needed to know.
Well, and in the honorable words of Jeffrey Gitomer, it's not a matter of I know that, it's a matter of how good am I at that? How
Yeah,
well do I know that?
I love that.
Because it's like, oh, I know that. That's just like saying a doctor that like he's gonna forget his first couple years of medical school, the basics, right? No, he may not use them very often, but it's a foundation of like, okay, every procedure, every intake comes in the same way. What hurts? Why does it hurt? How long have you had? You know what I mean? It all
Right,
starts with the basics, but then
right,
he goes into specific things. There's no
right.
difference here.
Any final words? We are really over our time here, so
No, I mean, how about you? Since I came up with the topic, what are your final words?
I think it really triggered and opened in my mind too how, this is a word that is misconstrued or taken all different ways. And at the end of the day, you have to just ask you these questions. Are you fulfilled or not? Or what is it you want? I mean, like, you're always happy, you know, helping other people, but hi, beautiful
Hey,
Sandy.
Sandy.
But you've got to ask yourself the questions that you can't expect somebody else to answer a question when you're not willing to ask it and answer it yourself.
You know,
And so just knowing that alone, get to know yourself better and don't be afraid to ask yourself these questions, because you'll find half the time you don't need to ask anybody else these
nope,
questions.
nope.
And yet you can share it with the experience of, wasn't it great to have these experiences? And boy, we're really out of time here, but I'm glad you opened up the can of worms with this question.
Yeah,
And again, it's all a matter of perspective, but it is one of those things to ponder, the things that we just avoid.
there is a correlation between how much you lean into doing the homework on what fulfillment is for you in every part of your life and for every experience and the outcome of what you might get.
Yeah.
But if you don't put anything at stake, and I'm not talking money, I'm talking your time, your thoughts, your efforts. If you're going to invest time in it, which is the most precious resource, if you're not going to put any skin in the game, what's the point?
Yeah. Yeah. It's just, again, you're avoiding what's your purpose here in life?
Well, and then you're
What,
fleeing from that. Maybe I could have what I want out of this experience,
right.
but you haven't declared it. Well, then it's very easy to say, well, that didn't fulfill me. Well, what did you put at stake? What did you
Right.
say you wanted out of this?
So I love it. As always, Brian, I love you. Thank
Love
you
you
for
too.
being here.
Mhm.
And until next week, have a good one.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, Brian.
Bye.